What's up? It's your boy Kevin to turn on this motherfucking YouTube shit. Wow, what the fuck?
What's up? It's your boy Kevin to on YouTube shit. Hey man, say man, we are turn outside. Big crip in it. Gang outside shit, man. Free Palestine, free Congo, Russia do your thing, and Texas stand the fuck up. These days you ready to be a better version of yourself. Never let someone bring you down or strike back. Never let someone tell you are, but also never put yourself in a position to belong. Keep Yahweh first. Come to the Black Hebrew Israelite. Let's get into this bitch. Alright, I mean, as a real Jew, let's get into this bitch. Alright, boom. See? Motherfucking day, straight hooding outside. Big crip in it. Gang, straight hooding outside shit, man. Alright, gang, man. Man. These white people, man, out of control. No matter if you're Britain, England, Australian, Greenland, bitch. You can be fucking for the caveman, bitch. These white people is out of control. Let's just set that down. We got Russle Brand. He's a comedian, an actor. He playing a lot of American movies. What I know him from movies. You know what I'm saying? I think it was a Greek like a Greek wedding. It had Diddy in it and all this crazy shit. That's what I remember from the movies. So he from Britain. This motherfucker got 4 people with the grape case, nigga. And he's supposed to go to trial. He charged with it. They got a whole documentary series about what's going on. Like, the victims are really coming up on camera talking about the shit. You know what I'm saying? It's getting really bad out here for him. You know what I'm saying? Y'all know how women are, man. They would want the shit, but then they start, everybody want to be a hoe until it's time to be a hoe. Let's be honest. But at the same time, you know what I'm saying, we still can't trust this motherfucker. You dig what I'm saying? So yeah, man, we got this video explaining what happened and why these people are saying that he did. And this crazy thing is, he even made jokes about the details of one of the victims that they're trying to put him in jail or sue him. I don't fucking know. This shit is getting crazy. So we got the videos. He even talks about it, and let's get into it. Hey man, say man. Shout out to Log Crime on the case, man. I ain't gonna cap. Russle Brand charged with rape and sexual assault. See what his white ass been up to, bitch.
Actor, comedian, musician Russle Brand is now an accused rapist. The star charged by UK police with rape and sexual assault. He's not staying quiet.
I was a drug addict, sex addict, and an imbecile, but what I never was a rapist.
His response to the criminal charges...
He like Johnny Depp, glass.
4 separate women, according to police. We'll dive into what we know, what he has to say about it. We're on the case presented by Law and Crime. I'm Chris Stewart.
Ooh, God bless me.
Russle Brand is known for being loud and outspoken and controversial.
Yeah, that's goofy ass.
He has faced accusations of sexual misconduct in the British media for years. Now he is going to face them in court. These are the charges the 50-year-old performer is facing, according to Metropolitan Police in the United Kingdom. 1 count of rape, 1 count of indecent assault, 1 count of oral rape,
Damn!
2 counts of sexual assault. Police say these charges are related to events that happened between 1999 and 2005. We'll get into what we know about these accusations in just a moment, but first let's break down what we know about Russle Brand. He rose to fame in the early 2000s in the UK as a comedian, then went on to host TV shows and work for MTV. Eventually,
Yep.
his popularity landed him roles in some big movies in the
Yep.
United States. You might remember Forgetting Sarah Marshall. That was in 2008. It was a huge success. It grossed more than $63 million at the
Damn.
U.S. box
Yeah,
office.
I know him as an actor.
He was in another hit movie, Get Him to the Greek.
Yeah.
His co-host in that film,
That's where I remember
Sean
him
Diddy
from.
Combs, which, given today's news and Diddy's legal troubles,
Ooh.
that movie certainly has people talking. Brand also famously married singer Katy Perry in 2010. They divorced in late 2011 when Brand reportedly sent Perry a text message telling her he wanted to end their marriage. And that was just before she was set to go out and perform in front of a large crowd. Over the years, Brand has spoke out about his faith and his politics, but his positions on those issues have changed. In 2012, he once appeared with the Dalai Lama. Over the pandemic, Brand's politics turned more anti-vaccine, and he's now a vocal supporter of President Trump. In 2024, he was baptized as a Christian. I bring all of this up not to have some sort of political discussion, but because it will make sense when you hear his response to the allegations that police have leveled this week. Let's talk about those allegations and the charges that Brand is now facing. The Metro Police say these charges are a result of an investigation that started in September 2023. Police say they received a number of allegations against Brand in the wake of reporting.
But they got weird ass smile, bitch.
In the Sunday Times, who aired allegations of sexual abuse against Brand from a number of accusers in the documentary. The charges that we're talking about today, according to police, are from an incident in 1999 when a woman was allegedly raped in the south of England, in 2001 when a woman was allegedly indecently assaulted in London, in 2004 when a woman was allegedly orally raped and sexually assaulted in London. And between 2004
my vagina and raping him is
a woman was
insane.
allegedly sexually assaulted once again in London, and police say these are incidents from 4 separate women. The lead investigator in the case from the Metro Police wrote, quote, "The women who have made reports continue to receive support from specially trained officers. The Met's investigation remains open, and detectives ask anyone who has been affected by this case or anyone who has information to come forward and speak with police." Now, as for Brand, he was quick to respond on his social media channels.
Hello. Firstly, thank you for these incredible and overwhelming messages of
Damn, these motherfuckers be getting old as fuck.
We're very fortunate in a way to live in a time when there's so little trust in the British government. We're very fortunate, I suppose, that this is happening at a time where we know that the law has become a kind of weapon to be used.
That is true, though.
Institutions and sometimes entire
But
nations.
shit, we don't trust y'all
that will not
motherfuckers.
accept
Facts.
and tolerate levels of corruption.
Y'all don't
that are
trust us, we don't
unprecedented.
trust you,
I'm speaking
bitch.
to those of you that are watching this in the UK. How do you feel about your legal system right now? How do you feel about some of the high-profile cases that are not being pursued and prosecuted? How do you feel that the Southport murders were handled? How do you feel about the government of Keir Starmer? Now, that's just sort of general context. Me,
That nigga
I've
said
always
shit. All
told
this
you
shit
guys
needs to get changed,
that when I was
nigga.
young and single, before I had my wife and family, who were just about a shot over there, my beautiful children, I was a fool, man. I was a fool before I lived in the light of the Lord. I was a drug addict, a sex addict, and an imbecile. But what I never was a rapist. I've never engaged in non-consensual activity. I pray that you can see that by looking in my eyes. I want to thank all of you for your continuing support. I want to let you know that our show will be on Rumble on Monday. Thanks for your support there. And of course, I'm now going to have the opportunity to defend these charges in court, and I'm incredibly grateful for that. In the meantime, you lot, stay free, and we will be continuing to discuss this matter. Praise the Lord.
So you hear Brand leading with what he's known for now, as someone who's very much into his politics, very much into his faith, before he gets to the allegations and the charges, to which he says he denies. You also heard him talking about his children. Seemed like he was on vacation somewhere. After he divorced Katy Perry, he married an author named Laura Gallagher, who now goes by Laura Brand. They got married in 2017.
I guess he can write the book then.
Together. As far as where this case is expected to go next in the legal system, police say Russell Brand is set to appear in court on May 2nd. Join us now from London, criminal solicitor.
So it's about to come up.
Thank you for taking the time to be with us today as this news has come down about Russell Brand. What do you make of these charges he's now facing?
Well, he's been
That
under
nigga look like
investigation for
McJugger
some
Nuggets,
time,
if y'all know who the fuck
and
that
the Crown
is.
Prosecution Service have now made a decision to charge him with one count of rape, one count of oral rape, one sexual assault, or two sexual assaults actually, with 4 different women.
4 different
so
women
this
is
is an
insane.
investigation that really started as a result of a program called Dispatches that was aired about 3 years ago, detailing allegations that have been made during the time when Russell Brand was really quite a popular broadcaster in the United Kingdom in the sort of early to mid 2000s. And so I think people have been aware about the prospect of him being charged with offences for some time.
Yeah, so they've been knowing that he's gonna get charged with this. Okay.
One is for a case reportedly in 1999, and then 2001, 2004.
Damn, time go by fast as fuck, nigga.
2005, and then there's allegations that go all the way, I think, to 2013. And I think about Russell Brand's career, and you had in the United States, Forgetting Sarah Marshall was a really popular movie in 2008. Of course, he was married to Katy
I think I've
Perry
seen
for a
that.
period of time,
I'm thinking about Lovely
which would
Bones
be
or some shit.
after when these reportedly happened. The dates of these, and to go back to say a case that apparently happened
Yeah,
in
got some ugly ass
2001
smiles. I ain't
in
gonna cut.
UK court. How is that viewed when it
Motherfucker
comes
be looking like
to,
lizards,
I
bitch.
think in the United States, like a statute of limitations type issue? Is that something that happens in UK court?
We don't have a statute of limitations for criminal allegations unless
Okay, so they ain't got no statute
very
of
minor
limitations.
allegations. So what are called summary offences have to be tried within 6
Damn, I mean, they
months.
can get you
There's no
whenever,
time
bitch.
limit, in respect of any other offence. In fact, it's really
I know
quite
after some years in
commonplace
America, you ain't got that much
for
time.
sexual
After
offences in particular
some
to be
years,
tried many
you don't
years
say nothing,
after the event.
it's over.
Sometimes with with offences, for example, involving child abuse that took place 40, 50 years ago, those allegations can be tried before a Crown Court. So it's really quite commonplace. The Russell Brand investigation, is part of a
You trying to be Willy Wonka, bitch?
pattern of investigations that have been brought about in more recent times because the alleged victims of this kind of offending have been, slightly more emboldened to come forward, given the support that they've received in the media and from other places in order to make allegations. So it's not really unusual.
So, nigga, they usually be doing this.
Someone
Okay.
need to have to come forward for Russell Brand to be facing criminal charges as opposed to it playing out in the public, the publicity court as those allegations in the programs had brought forward for years against Russell Brand.
Well, I mean, given the age of the allegations, it's quite unlikely
That nigga wearing eyeliner?
that there will be any forensic evidence.
Man, white people be weird, man.
So it will be testimony. Usually the victims of sexual offences are video interviewed and they give their accounts, and that is evidence. There may, of course, be other evidence in the form of
You know that they're
messaging,
trying to
video
beat you with some
messaging
Diddy
of some
shit.
sort,
It's
but
tough.
given the age of the allegations, it's probably unlikely. So I would imagine, although
I got
don't
that big
know,
boy name.
that the allegations against Russell Brand will be based.
That's the thing about being
almost
famous,
purely on the
nigga.
testimony of the 4
If you
complainants.
famous, they can hit you with all types of
Your
licks
experience,
to get
because
that
in the
check off
United
your
States,
ass.
sometimes the he said,
True.
she said argument is not enough to get a conviction for prosecutors. But in the UK, with typically how a court can view that, knowing that there's no statute of limitations, how does that typically play out in cases where it is a victim's word against someone who, in this case, is someone, though controversial, a very popular person?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, we have quite a low conviction rate here for allegations of rape and sexual assault. And
Damn, okay, so it's like nigga be hitting that pussy for that,
and criticism,
getting
I think
scot-free.
quite unfairly, criticism of prosecutors and the police sometimes.
In America, you get it before you even charge, bitch. You already saying you done. That's a white motherfucker cracker. They might say he not guilty. Nigga, they gonna say he on everything.
Have the allegations tried together. So all 4 complainants in
Nickelodeon?
front of the same jury.
Nick.
Really, the impression that
Man, that shit used to be the shit.
Depend upon the evidence that is given before them, the cross-examination of the complainants, the evidence given by Russell Brand, both in chief and under cross-examination, if he chooses to give evidence. But obviously, it's difficult for me to comment on the sort of strength of the evidence in the case without knowing. I mean, we're not entitled to know much information about the case at this juncture.
Yeah, and at the time of this recording, I mean, we learned about these charges against Russell Brand really in the last hour or so. So we're kind of just picking up.
Marrying Katy Perry, you got to be a weird individual.
I think of the fact that many of these dates happened before he was, at least in the United States, a very popular name. It would have happened during a time when, prior to more international fame for him, he was a big name in the UK. I think starting as a stand-up comedian. I know he's done a lot of different things.
I know him from the actor role. You know what I'm saying? When he was an actor, when he's like all that shut they were just showing him and Diddy and the other dude. Yeah.
Heard or started to hear that there were rumblings about allegations like this, which now he's charged.
I think that's right.
I mean, but a lot of girls do be lying. You know what I'm saying? So just say, you know what I'm saying? Because if it's a black person, they guilty off the bat. These white people, they might get a pass. But these hoes do be lying.
Which has featured in press articles and in
they get a train ran on them, get 7 niggas, claw their ass down, bow, 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 suck 10 dicks, get the asshole busted, and then when they get done and regret, they start saying they got gangbang rape. Nigga, no, you gave it up.
In the late 1990s,
bitch, you got too drunk and gave it up.
Well, throughout the 2000s, really, there was a scandal involving him and Jonathan Ross, which you may or may not recall in 2008 when they telephoned.
If you're trying to fuck
Andrew Sachs, who's a,
and you going for it, like, come on, man. Now, if you're not going for the shit and they do that shit, then that's rape. If you're going for it and then you regret, that's right. That's not rape.
Reference was made to the fact that Russell Brand had sex with his granddaughter.
What?
It was a big scandal, and he, I suppose his broadcasting career here
his granddaughter.
in the United Kingdom was quite badly damaged as a result of that.
Let me shut the fuck up and let me hear more.
I know he went on to have a very successful career in Hollywood.
Yeah, he did. And one movie I think about today, I know I mentioned Forgetting Sarah Marshall, but there's a movie, Get Him to the Greek, where his co-star is Sean Diddy Combs. So people certainly going to be looking at that film a little bit different and looking at the cast of it different, now seeing what Russell Brand is now charged with. What are some of the biggest differences that you would say between U.S. court and how the legal process could look like going on from here, and what he will face in UK court?
I think probably the biggest difference between the criminal proceedings in the US, criminal proceedings in the UK, is that once somebody is charged with a criminal offence, and even before they're charged, they have before they're charged, they have an expectation of privacy, which obviously in this case was particularly difficult given the provenance of the individual and the nature of the way in which the complaints came about and the level of press interest. But once somebody's been charged with an offence, really that's it, and the media aren't able to publish any information about it, other than what is said in open court, which in the administrative hearings that lead up to trial tends to be, fairly bland. And so,
why you like Adam Silver, bitch?
Case even wouldn't become clear until the case is over to trial.
With more
I think
hair,
in the United
Adam
States,
Silver.
The system is quite different, and I think that there is often quite a lot of publicity which is generated pre-trial. People are interviewed live on television and discuss the case in a way that doesn't happen over here. So I think that they're the predominant differences. When it comes to the actual trial process itself, generally speaking, quite similar. Prosecution introduces a case, it sets out its case, it calls its witnesses, so cross-examines, the defence call their witnesses, and then we have, closing speeches, and the jury is sent out to decide.
Yeah, it's fascinating to hear you talk about that, because I think of Russell Brand and just the attention in the last hour or so since this news broke about what he's charged with and the conversation. I mean, we're talking about this right now. So moving forward, though, once the proceedings begin, like if you were to turn on the BBC, there would not be the same type of coverage that you might get in the United States if this was a U.S. case.
If you read the reports from the UK press, all you will see, actually, when you read it, is what he's been charged with. And there'll be a brief statement from the police and the Crown Prosecution Service about the fact of the charge and about the fact that nobody ought to say anything about it. We have a quite important protection for the victims of sexual offences in this country, which means that they are entitled to lifelong anonymity if they make a complaint about a sexual offence.
They might shoot your ass with a cannon, bitch.
And that is a protection that's taken very, very seriously indeed.
You know what I'm saying? Get a little sword fight in that bitch.
Took any steps in order to breach that anonymity would find themselves.
Make you say you can't drink tea no more.
In hot water.
No more crumpets,
facing
bitch.
criminal allegations themselves, potential contempt proceedings.
Brother, like Dr. Seuss said that.
Whilst there may be speculation, the extent of that speculation may well be much
Sam I Am
more
built ass.
in depth in the United States. Over here,
look like the Peanut Man. You know the Peanut Man with that little goggle and the
much
goofy ass.
published until the trial begins. And the trial process, well, he's appearing in court, I think, in early May. That will be a magistrate's court. He'll be sent up to the Crown
so
Court.
it's about to happen. He's about to be in court, and it may about to come up.
I'm sure he'll almost certainly contest the charges. In which case, he's probably unlikely to face trial until sometime in 2026. So
so you gotta do 2026. So this must be the hearing. They might just talk about it and shit
in connection with the case over here
and bring it up.
Yeah, and how likely is it that facing these charges, that Russell Brand could be held behind bars ahead of a trial happening?
I think it's unlikely. I mean, it's difficult to properly comment without knowing a little bit more. Sure. I mean, the basis upon which somebody can be remanded in custody in this country pre-trial is just there are serious concerns that they may not attend trials, so they may leave jurisdiction. B, that there are serious concerns that they may offend or continue to offend if they were not remanded in custody, or C, that they may interfere with justice. So, I mean, he's quite a prominent
man,
figure,
he ought to be hitting licks, nigga.
On both sides of the Atlantic, and I think that
they be just flying that pussy around, and when a nigga actually take that pussy,
so I think
you know what I'm saying? They get hit with that motherfucking
prosecution to persuade a court that he needed to be remanded in custody. Unless he
hoes want to be hoes until it's time to be a hoe, nigga.
Which I'm sure
that's the main thing.
Perhaps
hoes want to be hoes until it's time to be a hoe. Fuck our shit.
And going back to how effective a he said, she said argument can be for the defense, at least in the United States, from what I've seen in cases involving alleged sexual abuse. I know Russell Brand, to the allegations that he's faced.
Man, he looks just like McJugger Nuggets. Look up McJugger Nuggets and say this nigga did not look. This white dude not like McJugger Nuggets.
Consensual. How does that argument? And again, I know that we are. There's a lot of stuff we don't know yet about the evidence that's going to be brought forward. But generally speaking, when you see cases like this, where there may not be that physical evidence, and then you have a defendant saying, "Hey, this was consensual," and there's really no way other than that victim's voice to be able to prove it one way or the other. How do juries in the UK typically see that?
Well, I mean, the only defence really to an allegation of this nature, other than it didn't happen, is that it was consensual, and I suspect that is likely to be his defence in this case. There are many cases that are prosecuted purely on the say-so of the victim. I mean, I can't speak for the strength or otherwise of the evidence in this particular case because I don't know enough about it. But it would rather depend on how that individual comes across in court, how they come across under cross-examination, and likewise how he comes across if he chooses to give evidence, and what is said. And of course, it may well be that the prosecution case will be made out in connection with one or more victims, but not all of them. It may be that he's acquitted of everything.
Told you.
It may be that his. I mean, it's very, very difficult to tell and know, isn't it? I mean,
he's white.
Whether or not
they might get that white dude a slap on the wrist.
Between the victims or something.
Get that cracker like a month in jail on some goofy shit. Hey, come on, bro. That would have been a black dude. Off with his head. Diddy 2.0.
Potential ramifications.
Give him a life.
Trial, but without knowing more, it's obviously difficult to say specifically.
He guilty.
No, absolutely.
I
also think
let's get 300 more people to come in and say he guilty. Random ass motherfuckers.
That he's
Goofy
accused
ass.
of. What type of time?
We know they lying, but fuck it. One come on. Let's make a Diddy hotline on this motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? Like on some goofy shit. Let's be honest, man.
If those were found to be true and a jury convicts him.
Well, if you're convicted of rape in this country, then a custodial sentence is almost inevitable. The length of that custodial sentence would depend on the nature of the allegations.
So what's the shortest time? What's the longest time, my boy?
Rape cases that are sort of loosely described as date rape, for example, or rape between partners would be viewed less seriously than, for example, what is commonly referred to as stranger rape. So somebody attacked in a park or in an alleyway or something of that nature would be more serious. But custody would be inevitable, and. Again, if there were convictions for more than one complainant, then that would be an aggravating feature. A judge would have to consider whether or not he imposed what are called consecutive sentences, so sentences that run one after the other, or whether to impose concurrent sentences, which are sentences that run alongside by side. And if he imposes concurrent sentences or consecutive sentences, he would need to decide what the total sentence ought to be. So I think, look, again, it's slightly difficult for me to say without knowing more about the case, but certainly it is right to say that if convicted, custody would be inevitable. I couldn't tell you how long he would get.
And I just think of Russell Brand as the celebrity. I would say, at least in the United States, his height of popularity, it's been over for a good period of time. I would say once he got divorced from Katy Perry in 2012, you didn't hear as much about Russell Brand anymore. He made some controversial statements in the pandemic. He made comments about politics in the U.S., but in terms of being the person he was when, like, Forgetting Sarah Marshall was in the box office, those days feel like they're long gone. What do you feel is the reaction, just from the public in the UK? Not as much asking you as an attorney, but just in general, when people hear this news, what's typically the reaction going to be in the UK to hearing that Russell Brand's been charged with this?
I don't think there would be surprise that he's been charged. I mean, I think it's a story that's almost in a way quite an old story, because there was a big, there was this Matches documentary which probably aired 3 years ago, maybe 2 years ago, so quite some time ago, and there was quite a lot of talk at that time as part of a sort of wider discussion, relating to the Me Too.
If he black nigga, it would have been a motherfucking apocalypse.
Male celebrities
come on, bro.
who have been accused of sexual misconduct. So I think that, it's a case that's been deep in the British psyche for some time. I don't think there will be an enormous amount of surprise that criminal charges have been brought. I mean, certainly it's been known for quite some time the Crown Prosecution Service were considering charges.
And it'll be fascinating to see how this case plays out with Russell Brand. He's doing court.
Off with his head!
Nick Brett joining us from the United Kingdom, from London. Thank you for taking
off with his head! The pitch with the fire.
In the documentary that was aired by Channel 4.
Hey, man, shout out to KB, man. Up and coming channel, you know what I'm saying? He got like 1,000 subscribers, man. Check him out. But then we finna talk about Russell Brand, man. Motherfucker charged with rape.
From drug-addled sex addict to featuring heavily in Hollywood, Russell Brand has really embodied his name by consistently switching his ventures and rebranding himself. Now donning a tinfoil hat and his podcast mic, you can now see him these days making some outlandish takes on the streets.
They might be trying to get him out the paint.
Into his conspiracy theorist bag. The former stand-up comedian made a name for himself starting out doing stand-up comedy, performing at the Hackney Empire in the early 2000s. He gained notoriety due to his content being...
Man, we don't know if he did it or not, man. Let's be honest.
By doing this, he was able to build up a fan base by talking about real-life problems and making light and fun of the situation. His career truly blew up when he started to feature in Hollywood films like his own, get him to the Greek, where he would meet his short-term ex-wife, Katy Perry.
Yeah,
While people were getting to know him for his big
Greek.
screen appearances, they were also getting to know his political views. The name Russell Brand and the word controversy have become synonymous, from the earliest time being when he turned up for work, just as Osama bin Laden, as a presenter for MTM.
Oh,
the day
shit.
after the New York's Twin Towers
Yeah,
attack.
Osama bin
There was
Laden.
also the time where he
Own
left
it.
voicemails on the phone of a person that he was due to interview on one of his TV shows.
But you know, he's from Britain, so that's kind of look bad for
co-host at the time,
American
Jonathan Ross,
eyes.
that Russell Brand had slept with the
But
guest's
you know.
granddaughter. But there was
What's
no
really
bigger
going on?
controversy than when the allegations of his history of abusive interactions with women
Someone was a
came
good
to
guy.
light in 2023. A 90-minute special episode of Channel 4's investigative documentary series, Dispatches, aired that year. At least
Yeah,
5
they got a
people
documentary
were sharing
series
their
on them?
stories about their interactions with Russell Brand, and at least 3 claims that
Oh, yeah, he
Russell
might
Brand
be
had
cooked.
sexually assaulted them in some type of way. And now fast forward to today, where Russell Brand has now been charged with and 2 counts of sexual assault between the years of 1999 and 2005. So let's take a deep dive into these allegations and charges and discuss how Russell Brand became Britain's most hated comedian. But before we get into the video, please can I remind you to like, share and subscribe, turn on your bell notifications, and now let's talk about it. The topics that we will be discussing in this video are graphic and can be triggering for anybody who's been in similar experiences, so please be aware. On the 4th of April 2025, news broke regarding Russell Brand, and it was the fact that he had been charged with 2 counts of indecent assault and 2 counts of sexual assault.
We've learned in the last few minutes that Russell Brand has been charged with rape, indecent assault, oral rape, and sexual assault. This is by officers in the United Kingdom. Details just emerging following investigations that have gone on now for several years, following those allegations that were made public, of course, in part through that Channel 4 documentary. Russell,
As mentioned before, the offences were between 1999 and 2005. He is due to appear in Westminster's Magistrates Court on the 2nd of May 2025. Unsurprisingly, Russell Brand also faces a lawsuit from America after a woman claimed that he had sexually assaulted her while she worked as an extra on the set of the comedy film Arthur in 2010. The Metropolitan Police had actually written to Brand himself, informing him of what he was being charged of. So in 1999, he is being charged with of a woman in the Bournemouth area. In 2001, he's being charged with indecently assaulting a woman in the Westminster area of London. And in 2004, he is being charged with orally and sexually assaulting a woman in the Westminster London area. Even though he is due to
He got
appear in
like 4
Westminster
shit
Court,
on his
he's
ass.
actually still overseas in America. In these situations where a suspect may be overseas, prosecutors may seek to agree the defendant's return. If a suspect refuses to cooperate, which Russell Brand could well decide to do, then it might lead to his extradition outside of the US, which is basically just extracting a person out of a country in order to face charges of where he is alleged to have committed crimes. The Crown Prosecution Service put out a statement
But they
saying,
got a whole
"We
documentary
carefully
series,
reviewed the
dude.
evidence after a police investigation into allegations following the broadcast of a Channel 4 documentary in September of
A channel-
2023.
what
We
the
concluded
fuck?
that Russell Brand should be charged with the offences, including sexual assault, indecent assault. These relate to reported non-recent offences between the years of 1999 and 2005 involving 4 women. Now, this statement is
4
interesting for a
women.
number of reasons, but the
Damn,
main one
bitch.
being, when the documentary initially released, a lot of
Man.
people were surprised
These
at the
groupie
lack of
assholes,
backlash
man, gotta let
or the
these
lack of
old
action
groupies go.
taken against Russell Brand. After the release of this documentary, everything seemed to continue as normal. Russell Brand was still getting engagement from a lot of his followers. He wasn't being cancelled on any social media. Not a lot of people were speaking up, even though a lot of the people in the documentary
right. Yeah,
gave
you a
detailed
fuck,
accounts of his behaviours and tendencies towards women. So many people were actually shocked
We
when
on
they
his
found
ass,
out
though.
that he was
Bitch.
finally being charged. And it seems as if the police took these allegations very seriously. They looked into the situation themselves and have been working behind the scenes, keeping it all quiet in order not to jeopardise the case that they were investigating, so that they could formally charge Russell Brand with an assault of all of these women. Shortly after he was charged, Russell Brand would speak out publicly against the police charges, claiming that the law has become a weapon to be used against
He
people.
right though.
Time
He
where there's
right.
so
He is
little
right.
trust
Once
in
you
the
start
British
speaking on
government.
shit,
We're very fortunate, I suppose,
he
that
right
this is
though.
happening at a
Be
time where
honest.
we know that the law has become a kind of
He right.
weapon
He right.
to be used against people, institutions, and sometimes entire nations
He
that
right.
will not accept
The
and
law has
tolerate
become
levels of corruption that are
a weapon to
unprecedented.
go
I'm speaking
against the good
particularly to those
guys
of you that are watching
or the
the
people
UK.
in general.
How do you feel about your
But
legal system
a lot of this
right
shit,
now?
man,
How do you feel about some
motherfucker
of
doing
the
some fucked up ass shit.
high-profile
I ain't saying
cases that
nobody
are
there to
not
go to
being
jail.
pursued and
Motherfucker doing
prosecuted?
some
How do
fucked
you
up
feel
ass
that the
shit.
Southport murders were handled? How do you feel about the government of Keir Starmer? Now, that's just sort of
We're
general
gonna speak about
context.
that shit.
I've always told you guys that when I was young and single, before I had my wife and family, who were just out of shot over there, my beautiful children, I was a fool, man. I was a fool.
I mean, we do
lived
have
in
them
the light
dog
of the Lord.
days, you know what
I
I'm
was a
saying?
drug
I don't
addict, a
cap.
sex addict, and an
Nigga
imbecile.
go
But what
around
I
going
never
crazy for a
was
little bit.
was a rapist.
You gotta
I've never
understand, he holds
engaged
it
in
evil.
non-consensual activity. I pray that you can see that by looking in my eyes.
So now let's talk about the Dispatches documentary. The documentary was a collaboration between Dispatches, a investigative department of Channel 4, and the Sunday Times. And because of this, many viewers had the unique experience of knowing what the key allegations were made before the airing of the show. Even Brand himself was able to put out a video discussing the allegations and denying them all, because he was aware beforehand about the news that was going to be published about him and how it would paint him in such a negative light.
2.5 years I've been drug and alcohol free, and I have a pretty good memory of accounts, and I also know that I am a person that very much respects the idea of consent. Also, I do respect the rights of the complainants to total anonymity.
I just wish Rumble was like more like YouTube, you
system
know
of
what I'm
justice,
saying?
and will be fully
Except for the
cooperative, knowing in
posting
my
all your
heart
videos, you post
I'm
anything on Rumble.
completely innocent
YouTube
of
don't
these
fuck shit.
allegations. And by the way, I don't believe in that statute of limitation stuff. I think if someone committed a crime 20 years ago, 30 years ago, if a crime was committed, the person should be held accountable. Justice. I believe in justice. I believe in
The
integrity.
KKK should have been like hold for their shit. They family
Doesn't just
members.
point
Shit,
the
fuck
finger
them.
at one man.
Get their family members.
It also
You can't
puts
get
these
their family
women's
members on the KKK
claims
shit.
into the wider context of the
Fuck it.
industry
On Tuscaloosa
and the
shit.
culture. Collective culpability should
All
be
other
taken
shit.
very seriously. Because
You
while
can't get
one
their family
man's
members,
actions
you can't
could
get
harm a
them,
lot
get
of
their family
people,
members.
the
Fuck
lack of action from those around him enabling his behavior have also caused a lot of harm to others.
Pussies.
The allegations themselves are disturbing, but having the stories told by a person, even if they were anonymized interviews filmed in a silhouette, or in one case replaced by a whole actor, you can really tell the harm, pain, suffering that was caused.
He grabbed me and got me on the bed. I was fully clothed and he was naked at this point, and he held me down and he was just aggressively trying to, me.
He trying to get them cookie box.
I was like, oh my God, he raped me.
Damn.
One of the women that claims Russell Brand assaulted her says that they met initially on the set of his new show, Brand X, at the time. She claims they had sex twice, and one of the times being consensual, but the second assault happened allegedly on the 1st of July 2012. Upon her arrival to his flat, he came out rushing out of his room naked and pushed her up against the wall, telling her that he's got a friend for her to meet. She was against this idea, but he kept pushing her, and to the point where he pinned her up against the wall. When she refuses to meet this friend of his, that's when allegedly this assault happened.
He's grabbing at my underwear, pulling it to the side. I'm telling him to get off me. He won't get off.
Motherfucker.
Like holding me up against the wall, pushing himself in me.
Damn! He's getting all up in your ass.
That she had an inappropriate relationship with Russell Brand. Mind you, he was 30 at the time, and she was only 16.
Oh,
so while
shit.
she was of the legal age limit to consent to having sex,
But that's
he
the
was
second
almost
time,
double her age at
allegedly.
this point. She recounts how she felt during the whole relationship, and now looking back at it, she can see how deeply inappropriate it was. She even also talks about the time where she was forced to give oral sex to Russell Brand.
She's trying to get them
And what also
M&Ms.
seems to be a damning indictment is that Russell Brand has talked about these sexual experiences on stage as
He's
part
trying
of
to
his
get them
act.
M&Ms.
There's even a point where he talks about how he likes to get
Man, if you
sex
get
from
raped 3
women.
times in a row, bro, I don't know.
Forced his penis down my
I
throat.
might be a different
and
person.
I couldn't breathe. It was just choking me. I was crying. And he said, oh, I only wanted to see your mascara run anyway.
Damn! Hustlers.
Them blowjobs where mascara runs a little bit.
Oh shit! He's making jokes about
Ellen
it.
Berger, Russell
He
Brand's
raped this man,
personal
made
assistant
jokes
from the
about it,
years
made
2006 to
millions.
2007. Gave a personal account of her experience with
These
him.
white people,
She
man,
talked
weird.
about how that he was a sex addict who would sleep with a different woman each night.
Damn,
And a
you know
lot
how
of these
crazy
women
that
would
is?
be audience members from his own shows. She goes on to say how he was very much a narcissist and he would only
You
really
rape somebody,
care
make a
about
joke
himself
about
and
it.
his own thoughts. He would constantly meet her or be around her
Making
in his
millions off
underwear.
of her pain.
Mind you, remember that this is her employer. She made it clear a lot of his behavior back then was very odd, but it was generally accepted within that culture. Nowadays, you would not be able to get away with a lot of the stuff that he was doing. For her, the moment where she was like, okay, a lot of the things that he's not doing is okay, is when he was at a bar showing a lot of the people he was working with naked women on his phone, and she recognized one of these women. These women had sent these private photos just for him, and he was showing it to people around him, laughing and joking about it, and she clearly wasn't okay with this. The show really tries to shed a light on a lot of Brand's misogynistic behaviors. Back in 2008, he left some crazy voicemails for a guest on one of his shows, and it was revealed by co-host Jonathan Ross that Brand had actually slept with the guest's granddaughter. These voicemails were eventually leaked to the public, and they did not take it well. A lot of people were calling for his head, and he would eventually be let go by the BBC. In hindsight, it's actually amazing that he would last as long as he did in that role. In the documentary, they play an audio of him making demeaning sexual remarks about his show's female newsreader. He also joked to his celebrity guest that he would send his personal female assistant to visit the star and strip naked. And if you had no idea about this, and if you didn't know any information coming into it, you wouldn't believe who the guest star was on the show. Jimmy Savile.
You one day, Mr. Jimmy Savile, just, you know.
If you've got a sister, you could meet me by bringing her along.
I mean, I haven't got any sisters,
I
but
don't usually meet fellas, but if you've got a sister, that's okay.
I've got a personal assistant called and part of her job description is that anyone I demand she greets, meets, massages, she has to do it. She's very attractive, Jimmy.
Well, that's a good start.
What kind of
start? You could send her along to do some research.
Would you like her to wear anything in particular, Jimmy?
I'd actually prefer her to wear nothing.
Right, so you want my assistant to meet you naked? Okay, well that's not going to be.
Insight shows us that ignoring red flags and indulging in toxic behavior to prioritize talent or fame allows people to get away with toxic, misogynistic behavior to the point where it just becomes so normal and they don't believe that they're doing anything wrong. If you get the chance or you have the time to watch the documentary, it's something that I would highly recommend because it really gives you a peel back to that type of culture, to the type of industry at that time, and you can just see the behaviors that were just allowed at that point. So if you didn't know, Russell Brand is not well liked amongst his peers.
Probably the reason I hate him so much is because
damn. We like white on white crime,
I've got this fear that one day my daughters will bring something like that home.
Oh.
And he'll come in and go, oh, such pleasure to be in your charming abode. Funny and it's very delicious.
Always been a stand-up comedian. Before this, I had a job as a brand manager. I spent 8 hours a day telling him not to anyone.
Damn! Damn! Come on,
His alleged behavior is often described as an open secret in the industry. There have been many WhatsApp groups created for female comedians in the industry in order to inform those unaware of his tendencies and his behaviors as they could potentially be put in harm. And Russell Brand's name is heavily featured within these discussions and conversations. But it's not only him, there are other male creators within that space who are frequently thrown into that discussion. So it just speaks as a damning indictment of an industry that creates so much laughter that there's this darkness behind it. Daniel Sloss, a comedian, is one of the few that have come out publicly and spoken about Russell Brand's behaviour and treatment of women.
Do you know him at all? I know heaps about him that are unrepeatable.
Oh boy.
But not a good man.
Wow. Great.
chest hair.
Great for getting Sarah Marshall. And it's easy to come to terms with because he was never, ever, ever good at stand-up at any point in his fucking career.
He is an asshole. He probably was a dickhead.
I don't feel like I'm bad-mouthing somebody that went through the trenches like we did. He was somebody that skipped a bunch of fucking levels, became a fucking TV presenter, and went, I'll just be weird. He stole somebody else's accent in the UK.
But hey, I get what he's saying, though.
He is already known for
including serious stories
about male violence in his stand-up routines.
Percent of rapists will not spend a single day in jail. That is a real statistic. How does society, how do we fix this? How do we stop this happening? It has to involve us. And by us, I mean men. Now, to the women in the room, I know you know this. None of this is new information to you. You've lived your life, you've got your experiences, and your voices are more important and necessary in this discussion than mine. That being said, I would still like to lend my voice to the discussion. And to the men in the room, I want to make something crystal clear. This isn't an attack. I'm not accusing you of anything. I knew this man for 8 years, and he fucking did it. There are monsters amongst us, and they look like us. If you are sick of the narrative that is currently going on about men, feel free to change it. But you have to get involved. Don't make the same mistake I did for years, which was just sitting back and be like, well, I'm not part of the problem, therefore I must be part of the solution, because that's just not how this fucking shit works. I believe, and deep down I know that most men are good, or of course we are, but when 1 in 10 men are shit and the other 9 do nothing, they might as well not fucking be there. You have to actively be good and get involved. Instead of having this fucking hero complex of being like, I'm going to beat up a rapist, fucking prevent one, stop one, because I know it can be done, because I know how I fucking failed at it. Talk to your fucking boys.
So at this point you might be thinking, well, if majority of the
what about these hoes that be raping niggas? Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Let's get to the nitty gritty though. What about these females that be raping niggas? Let's talk about it.
So in early 2021, Russell Brand, who already had
a YouTube channel, you don't really want it. Facts. I mean, I ain't never had that problem, you know what I'm saying? I mean, some of these hoes do want to rape a nigga, but I give it up easy to these hoes.
100,000 views per video. That quickly turned into millions.
Nah, man.
During the height of the pandemic.
Some of these niggas be on some fuck shit.
He would go on his YouTube channel and talk about the Great Reset, which was a vague set of proposals from an influential think tank in order to rebuild the global economy after the pandemic. And parallel to this movement of thinking, there was a theory that represented proof of a plot to control the world's population and strip people of their freedoms. So a lot of people who buy into this or who follow this movement and culture, Russell Brand is seen as a reborn man, a man who has taken up Christ in his life.
I mean, people can change, but shit,
a lot of the wrongdoings in his past were wrong, and he's trying to make a better person out of himself.
Cause look at
people who believe Russell Brand is innocent typically buy into the notion that there is
in the Bible,
mass
he changed, but his past always came
to
up
bring
on
him down,
you know
because of his political and
he had to die because his past. You know, he changed views.
Okay, this is the media machine coming for him. I didn't Channel 4 or the BBC or any of these other mainstream media outlets, why didn't they go for him there and then when it was their title in plain sight? Why 15 years later? And how come 5 women are coming forward 15 years later, all to Channel 4? 4 of them want to be blacked out and their identities hidden, and they've all gone to Channel 4. Right, I've got a complaint to make about Russell Brand. Are you sure you should be ringing the police about this one? No, I want Channel 4. It's important, and there's 5 of us. It just seems to me that he, since he's been exposing big tech, big pharma, corporations, the elite, they want to shut him up because his following is enormous. His message is now resonating, and if you look in the comments, more people are agreeing with him. So that's my take on it anyway. I mean, if he has done any of those things, then he can swing from a tree, and I'd like to be there and
they let you do it when you was fucking with them. They changed up on them. They get your ass out the paint. That's how it goes, bro.
Law that he has done any of those things, for me, the jury's still out.
By consistently titling a lot of his YouTube videos with topics like lie, hid, exposed, that's going to rile up a lot of people. Who like to think that they go against the system and not believe everything that's happening. They will willingly follow somebody who.
But that's what we said with Diddy.
Consistently telling the truth.
We know they're trying to get Diddy out the paint because he's a billionaire. He got a lot of power. He's black. But what the fuck can we do?
Russell Brand has consistently shown a pattern of behavior that is unacceptable.
When motherfuckers got 300 people coming out against him.
Continues to demean them. Russell Brand is from an era where accountability was not emphasized. He was allowed to say whatever he wanted, regardless of how offensive or how unthinkable it was, and he was
But that's white
consistently
people. They can say and do whatever the fuck they want to do in the first place. So they get popped inside their motherfucking heads, bitch. By real
Others would
niggas.
consistently stand
And
by
they get to
and
start
simply allow these
acting
things to
funny,
happen.
acting right,
It's clear
bitch.
to see that he's not the same person he once was. He is a husband and a father to his children. He's a born-again Christian. But does that mean he should be allowed to get away with his past behaviors? Even Brand himself has said he doesn't believe there's a limit of statute of limitations. He believes that if you have done something in the past wrong, you should be held accountable for your actions. But now this also plays into the narrative of his narcissistic tendencies, because for him to believe that he's done nothing wrong sounds like delusion, in all honesty. Because how likely is it that all of these women, of their own interactions with Russell Brand, have come out and accused him of assaulting him? It is possible what they're exactly accusing him of isn't true. But what's very evident is that he's very much done something wrong, and he should be at least held accountable for that. But let me know your thoughts on the situation. Do you believe Russell Brand is innocent? Do you believe he's guilty?
Man, these motherfuckers gonna, at the end of the day, we won't know until it happens, you know?
He's a narcissist?
A lot of these motherfuckers, man, they go against the system, they work with the system, they go against the system. That's what happens, man.
And thank you for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.
I'll be back. So if you see from that motherfucker, Russell Brand is really like public enemy number one. Y'all know we like the white on white crime gang. Let's be honest, you dig? They really don't like him. You know what I'm saying? I guess because it's like, you know, when you silver spoon and somebody gotta go a harder way than what you went to just to get to where they at, and it's like you shitting out on these niggas, and you took the easy route, and these niggas gotta go the hard route. Motherfuckers don't like that. You know what I'm saying? In general, you know what I'm saying? When you talking shit, motherfucker, you gonna have haters in general. Also, you know, he was on that tip of exposing people too. Like big companies and like, you know, brands and shit. So it's like, when you trying to expose companies, that shit would happen too. But let's not act like these white people ain't no motherfucking animals at times. You know what I'm saying? Like, remember where these motherfuckers come from. Let's be honest. These niggas ain't no rainbow and sunshine. These motherfuckers are shit. Savages, motherfuckers eat motherfuckers. This shit crazy. Look into the history. That's not, shit can happen. You know what I'm saying? Just because that motherfucker changed, not even change, but you get what I'm saying? Try to hide the shit. You ain't act like this shit won't happen. So it's just like a lot of shit happening with the Russell Brand shit. His court's supposed to be coming up. So I don't know what they're gonna do. If they gonna, I think it's just pre-trial. So I don't know what they're gonna do on pre-trial. If the people come in or whatever, they're trying to set up a correct date. They said it might not happen to like 2026, but he have been charged. They said people been knowing about it. And like I said, man, if that was Diddy, it would have been over. Like you already see what's happening. You already see what's happening. But yeah, man. So I'm just saying, man. Never trust these hoes. Sometimes it's better just to beat the shit than just risk anything out here these days. You just never know unless she really 100% just fuck with you. You know what I'm saying? You gotta find your real one. But yeah, man, sleeping with all these hoes when you super famous can get real tricky. Let's be honest. We have to get you hood, Northside, big crippin', gang, Northside shit.
Hey, Dad, you know dog, when we link up, dog, this shit be legendary. Even though this is instrumental, you the engineer on it, so Kodak everywhere.